The first time I saw our babysitter cry, she thought no one was watching. She stood in the kitchen holding a tiny blue sweater, pressing it against her face as if it carried the scent of someone she loved more than life itself. When she realized I was there, she quickly folded it, forced a smile, and said it belonged to a charity donation. I believed her. I trusted her. After all, she had spent the last 3 years helping raise my daughter like she was family. I had no idea that hidden inside our home was a secret that would destroy my marriage, break my heart, and make me question everything I thought I knew about the man I loved. The day I discovered the truth, I realized our babysitter wasn't just caring for my child. She was secretly raising my husband's child too. My name is Emily, and until a year ago, I believed I had the perfect life. My husband, Daniel, and I had been married for 8 years. We lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Chicago in a beautiful house we had worked hard to afford. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Daniel owned a successful construction company, and I worked remotely as a graphic designer while taking care of our 6-year-old daughter Lily. Daniel wasn't perfect, but he was charming. He remembered birthdays, surprised me with flowers for no reason, and always kissed me goodbye before work. Everyone who met him said I was lucky. Sometimes I believed it. When Lily started kindergarten, I needed more help around the house. That's when Olivia came into our lives. She was 28, soft-spoken, kind, and incredibly patient with children. Lily adored her immediately. Within days, Olivia knew exactly how to calm Lily after nightmares, how to make her laugh during bad moods, and how to convince her to eat vegetables without a fight. Soon Olivia became more than our babysitter. She was part of the family. She joined us for birthdays, Thanksgiving dinners, and even our annual beach vacation. My parents loved her. Daniel always praised how responsible she was. She's a blessing, he often said. I agreed. Looking back now, I wish I had paid more attention to the way he looked at her. It wasn't obvious. Nothing dramatic. Just tiny moments that disappeared before I could understand them. Sometimes I'd walk into a room, and they'd suddenly stop talking. Sometimes Daniel seemed strangely nervous if Olivia was running late. Sometimes I'd catch Olivia avoiding eye contact with him for no clear reason. I ignored every warning because trust can make you blind. One Saturday morning Daniel announced he had an emergency meeting with investors. I'll probably be gone most of the day, he said while grabbing his car keys. Olivia happened to arrive just as he was leaving. Their eyes met for only a second. Neither of them smiled. It was almost as if they were silently communicating. The feeling lasted only a moment. By dinner I had forgotten about it. Months passed. Life continued. Then something strange happened. One afternoon Olivia asked if she could leave an hour early. My nephew isn't feeling well, she explained. Of course, I said. She thanked me so many times that it seemed unusual. The next day she looked exhausted. Dark circles covered her eyes. You okay? I asked. I barely slept. Your nephew, she nodded quickly. Yeah, he's been sick, again. I believed her. Over the next several weeks she left early more often, always because of her nephew. Always apologizing. One evening Lily accidentally mentioned something that froze me. Mommy, when can we visit Noah again? I looked up from washing dishes. Who's Noah? Our babysitter's little boy? I laughed. You mean her nephew? Lily shook her head. No. She said Noah is her special little boy. My hands stopped moving. Where did you see him? At the little blue house. I frowned. What blue house? The one Miss Olivia takes me to after school sometimes before we come home. The plate slipped from my hands and shattered in the sink. What did you just say? Lily looked confused. We stop there when she needs to check on Noah. My heart started racing. Olivia had never told me she took Lily anywhere except the park. That evening I asked Olivia directly. Lily mentioned someone named Noah. For the first time since I'd known her, Olivia looked terrified. Oh, she Forster's a son? So your nephew. Wes, then why did Lily call him your little boy? Olivia laughed nervously. Kids get confused. It sounded believable, but something inside me refused to let it go. That night I couldn't sleep. The next afternoon, after Olivia picked Lily up from school, I quietly followed them. I felt ridiculous, like an insecure woman inventing problems. Still, I kept driving. Instead of coming home, Olivia turned into a quiet neighborhood 20 minutes away. She parked in front of a small blue house. Exactly like Lily had described. I stayed far enough away so she wouldn't notice me. Then I watched. A little boy, around 4 years old, ran out the front door. He screamed happily. Mummy! Olivia dropped to her knees and hugged him tighter than anyone hugs a nephew. I couldn't breathe. She kissed his forehead. He wrapped his tiny arms around her neck. Lily joined them, laughing as they all walked inside together. My hands trembled so badly I almost dropped my phone. She had lied. But why? For nearly an hour I waited outside. Finally Olivia came back with Lily. The little boy cried as she drove away. I sat frozen. Questions flooded my mind. Why hide a child? Why lie? Why bring Lily there? When Olivia returned to our house, I acted normal. I smiled, asked about Lily's homework, thanked her for helping. Inside my thoughts were spinning. That night I searched every public record I could find. Eventually I located the property. The blue house wasn't rented by Olivia. It belonged to an elderly woman named Margaret Ellis. The next morning I drove there alone. Margaret answered the door with a warm smile. Can I help you? I'm looking for Olivia. She's at work. I hesitated. I'm a friend. Margaret welcomed me inside. Family photos covered every wall. Then I saw one that made my blood run cold. Olivia stood beside the little boy. Between them was Daniel, my husband. He had one arm around Olivia, the other around the child. It looked exactly like a family portrait. I stared at it. Margaret noticed. Aren't they beautiful together? The room spun around me. I'm sorry. My voice barely worked. Who are they? Margaret smiled proudly. My daughter, my grandson, and Noah's father. Everything inside me stopped. Noah's father. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear. And, who's his father? She looked surprised. Daniel. My knees almost gave out. My son-in-law couldn't marry Olivia because of complicated circumstances. The words echoed endlessly inside my head. Couldn't marry Olivia. Daniel, my husband. Margaret kept talking, completely unaware that my world had just collapsed. He supports Noah financially. Visits when he can. It's sad they couldn't become a real family. I forced myself to keep breathing. When did Noah's father meet Olivia? Oh, almost 5 years ago. 5 years. Daniel and I had been married for 8, which meant he had another child while we were already married. I somehow managed to leave the house without collapsing. The moment I reached my car, I burst into tears. I couldn't even start the engine. Everything suddenly made sense. The secret conversations, the nervous glances, the unexplained meetings, the emergency business trips, the money that disappeared from our savings, the flowers, the perfect husband. It had all been a performance. But one question haunted me more than any other. If Daniel had another family, why was Olivia working inside my home every single day? That answer came sooner than I expected. 3 nights later I woke around 2 in the morning. Daniel wasn't beside me. I assumed he was downstairs getting water. Then I noticed headlights outside. I quietly walked to the upstairs window. Daniel stood in the driveway. Olivia stood beside him. Neither of them realized I was watching. She was crying. He held both of her hands. Then he pulled her into a long embrace. Not the hug of friends. Not the hug of employer and employee. The hug of 2 people carrying years of painful history. I grabbed my phone and started recording. Suddenly Olivia stepped back and said something I couldn't hear. Daniel wiped tears from her face. Then he whispered something that changed her expression completely. She nodded slowly. He kissed her forehead before she got into her car. I stood frozen behind the curtain, unable to process what I had just seen. The man I had trusted with my heart had just comforted another woman in the middle of the night. And that woman was secretly raising a child everyone believed was his. I didn't know it then. But the biggest lie of all was still waiting for me, and when I finally uncovered it, I would realize that almost every person in my life had been hiding the truth from me. Daniel stood there for a long moment after Olivia drove away, staring at the empty street as if he had just watched his whole life disappear. I slipped back into bed before he came upstairs, pretending to be asleep. When he quietly climbed under the covers, I felt farther away from him than I ever had before. The man beside me suddenly felt like a stranger. The next morning, he smiled over breakfast as if nothing had happened. Everything okay? He asked. I forced a smile. Fine. Inside I was already making a plan. For the next week I said nothing. I watched. I listened. I copied bank statements, photographed text notifications whenever Daniel left his phone unattended, and wrote down every late night meeting and every unexplained expense. The more I looked, the worse it became. There were monthly payments to Margaret Ellis, hotel receipts from weekends when Daniel claimed he was traveling for work, and transfers that added up to tens of thousands of dollars. But one thing didn't make sense. Every payment was labeled support, not rent, not gifts, support. I hired a private investigator, something I never imagined I would do. 3 days later he handed me a thick envelope. I think you should sit down, he said. Inside were dozens of photographs, Daniel with Olivia. Daniel carrying Noah on his shoulders. Daniel attending birthday parties. Daniel leaving the blue house. Then there was one photograph that changed everything. Daniel was handing Olivia an envelope. She looked angry, not affectionate. It looked less like a couple meeting in secret and more like two people trapped by something neither wanted. "What do you make of this?" I asked. The investigator hesitated. "I've been doing this for 20 years. They don't act like people in love. They act like people carrying a burden." His words stayed with me. That evening, I confronted Olivia before Daniel came home. She looked terrified the moment she saw my face. "You know," I said quietly. She closed her eyes. "I was wondering when this day would come. Tell me the truth." And tears filled her eyes. "I'm so sorry. As Noah Daniel's son," she nodded. The words hit me like a punch even though I already knew. "How long has this been going on?" "It isn't what you think." I laughed bitterly. "Really? Because it looks exactly like my husband has another family." Olivia shook her head so hard that tears flew from her cheeks. "No. Please, let me explain." I folded my arms. "You have one chance." She took a long breath. 5 years ago, Daniel and I worked on a charity project together. We became friends. One night after a fundraiser, we both drank too much. We made one terrible mistake. I felt my stomach twist. I found out I was pregnant weeks later. Did he leave me? No. Did he promise to marry you? No. Then why? Beg me to tell you. He wanted to confess everything. I stared at her. He did, she nodded. But I refused. Why? Because I knew if I destroyed your marriage, Noah would grow up hated. I didn't want that for him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told Daniel I'd raise Noah myself. I said he could help financially. But I never wanted to come between your family. Then why work in my house? Olivia looked ashamed. After Noah was born I struggled. I couldn't afford childcare. Daniel offered me a job because he trusted me with Lily and wanted to make sure Noah and I were financially stable. You expected me never to find out. No. So what was the plan? There wasn't one. She broke down crying. I've hated myself every single day. Before I could answer, the front door opened. Daniel walked in. He froze when he saw us. Neither of us spoke. Finally I held up the family photograph from Margaret's house. Tell me I'm wrong. His shoulders collapsed. You're not. For the first time in 8 years, I saw my husband cry. I'm sorry, Emily. I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered. Did you ever love her? He answered without hesitation. No. Olivia quietly whispered, he's telling the truth. I looked at her in disbelief. She continued, he loves you, he always has. I shook my head. People don't destroy the people they love. Daniel nodded. I know. The next few weeks were filled with lawyers, counseling, and painful conversations. News spread through both families. My parents were devastated. Daniel's parents admitted they had known about Noah for nearly 4 years. That betrayal hurt almost as much as Daniel's. Then another secret came out. Margaret called me unexpectedly. I need to tell you something. When I arrived, inside were legal papers. What are these? Daniel created a trust. For Noah. As she nodded. And for Lily. I looked confused. He put exactly the same amount of money aside for both children. I kept reading. Everything Daniel owned would be divided equally between them. He never wanted one child treated better than the other, Margaret said quietly. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, sadness, confusion. Then Margaret told me something I never expected. Olivia has been planning to move away for over a year. What? She wanted to leave the state so your family could finally heal. That night I asked Olivia if it was true. She smiled sadly. I already accepted a teaching position in another city. You were just going to disappear. She nodded. It was the only way. I realized then that while Olivia had made a terrible mistake, she had spent years trying to protect everyone else, even if her choices had only made the lies bigger. A month later, Daniel and I stood in divorce court. The judge asked if our marriage could be saved. I looked at Daniel. He looked broken. I forgive you, I said softly. Hope filled his eyes. But forgiveness doesn't always mean staying. He slowly nodded. I understand. The divorce was finalized that afternoon. Months passed. Life slowly found a new rhythm. Lily stayed with me during the week and visited Daniel every other weekend. Eventually she met Noah. At first I was afraid. Instead, something unexpected happened. The two children became inseparable. They laughed together, built blanket forts, chased each other through the backyard, and argued over toys just like any brother and sister would. Watching them, I realized they hadn't created this pain. Adults had. One afternoon, nearly a year later, I received a letter from Olivia. She thanked me for allowing Lily and Noah to know each other. She apologized one final time. At the bottom she wrote, The greatest gift you gave my son wasn't forgiveness. It was allowing him to have a sister. I cried harder than I had in months. Not because the pain was gone, but because I finally understood that healing isn't forgetting what happened. It's choosing not to let the past poison every tomorrow. Daniel remained an active father to both children. We never became husband and wife again, but over time we learned how to become respectful co-parents. There were still difficult days, birthdays that felt awkward, and holidays filled with complicated emotions. Yet each year became a little easier because we all made one choice. The children would never carry the weight of the adults' mistakes. Years later, at Lily's high school graduation, Noah stood beside her cheering louder than anyone's. Looking at them, I realized that the biggest secret had once torn our lives apart, but the truth had finally given everyone a chance to build something honest. As I watched the sunset that evening, I understood one lesson I would never forget. A lie can protect the truth for a little while, but only the truth can heal a broken heart forever.